Have you ever considered a role in tech sales? In this episode, we're going to break down everything that you need to know about tech sales, corporate tech sales, big fancy Fortune 500 companies. I'm joined by Fidel Cashflow, who's going to break it all down. Welcome back to another episode of the My Latin Life podcast, your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. And we welcome Fidel Cashflow, Twitter personality, to the podcast. How's it going, man?
Hey man, how are you doing? I love the intro and excited to be on the space and having the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get into some hot topics right off the bat. We'll definitely talk about high ticket sales versus tech sales, which I think is a good one. But I wanted to kick it off with the remote aspect of things because obviously my audience wants to be international and live all around the world. So how does corporate tech sales work with being remote? Because I kind of thought that some of these companies might want to see you in that fancy shiny office in Austin, Texas, to be the corporate sales bro. Or is this something that could potentially work for someone that wants to be fully remote?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, ever since the inflection point, and we'll stamp that of 2020, right? COVID, and most of the workforce went remote in terms of their, operations or specifically corporate sales. That was an opportunity and arbitrage where a lot of folks came into understanding what remote sales was, right? Being able to take advantage of location independence, not having to go into the office, and of course, like all of the advantages and arbitrage that comes with that. Ever since then, we've slowly been mandated on under a RTO or return to office. A lot of the larger Fortune 500 companies have really stamped a policy. I would say since maybe a
Mm-hmm.
year after 21, 22, where most of the representatives of those companies, especially when it comes to more of a team, selling environment, corporate environment, that they're expecting people back into the office. Now, I'm going to hold my thoughts on the why behind that. I'm sure we can pontificate multiple scenarios, but what people to fail to understand is, especially at these larger corporate organizations, right? Let's take a public company where they have multiple HQs, right? Offices. And some of those headquarters, especially if you are a bilingual or currently learning a different language, you're taking a look at living overseas in a particular country, and you become fluent in that language, you have an opportunity to work all around the globe, right? You could very much work for a Microsoft, for example, in their Latin America HQ overseas. So
That
you could
probably
take
pays less money though.
yeah, definitely. The income is the slider is going to be based off of your location, and that's true also with inside of
Are
the.
you talking about like a relocation if you're already working in the States, or are you talking about like just going straight to like the Mexican office and being like, hey, can I work for you guys?
Both options are available to you. However, relocation, if you're a current employee, is your highest probability chance.
That would pay more. Okay. But putting that stuff aside, what about just the state of corporate tech sales right now? B2B tech sales, I guess it's all B2B, right? Um, Even with the RTO mandates, is there still a good amount of opportunity for people to be fully remote?
There's definitely opportunity in the market. Of course, like, they're very much consolidating at these larger organizations. Let's just, generalize here. If you're looking at a public company, a Fortune 500 company, and you're in an entry level role, I would say less than 5 years of experience, there's a high probability chance that you're going to be in a hybrid environment, right? Like 3 to 2 days in office, most likely entry level roles with 100% in office.
Hmm.
However, there is another opportunity there, right? There's a gap. Once you become more senior, you get into the higher selling roles. If we're talking about tech sales specifically, like up market, what we call mid market or enterprise sales, all of those guys are remote.
Hmm.
So,
They're all remote.
yeah, most likely. Most of the senior reps, enterprise reps, are working in a remote environment. Reason being is that these individuals, at the end of the day, right, they're responsible for the stock price of the company. They're multi-million dollar deals, if they don't hit the quota, you're going to see it reflected in the quarterly earnings type of thing, right? So a lot of leverage that as they mandated RTO, these more senior reps essentially were able to secure their position remotely because those employees have more leverage. They're hard to replace compared to the entry level grad.
Got it. And I guess maybe one thing we overlooked. So you are in tech sales, which I guess generally is software sales,
Yeah, software and hardware. I'm
software and hardware.
specifically within SaaS, which is a delivery model of software as a service, and
Yep.
been a part of that for 6 years.
Okay. Cool. So B2B SaaS. Um, I guess maybe there are other opportunities to, people could sell anything, right? I was actually just talking to a guy earlier today, and he deals with like the China trade and coordinating the containers, and he was saying more than half his pay is commission. But you really in your community and the whole brand of Fidel Cashflow is really about tech sales, right? Like probably like late stage startups and Fortune 500 companies doing B2B SaaS and this kind of thing, right?
Yeah, so our group is really a general community for all tech sellers, right? We definitely have some lead gen guys, email marketing guys that use similar tactics, sales strategies in terms of prospecting, since it is B2B. But yeah, specialization is going to be tech sales in general. Now, I want to make a distinction here. There's really two two sides of the coin, generalizing that statement. We have what I describe as the corporate route, which is what we've covered up to this point, right? Your public company, they've got multiple HQs, right? Across the globe, Fortune 500 companies. Now, if you decide to enter the industry, you're currently in that industry, right? Probability chance that you're most likely going to be working in a hybrid or in person environment, especially if you don't have extensive sales experience, is going to be very high. Now, there is an arbitrage that we've identified that's attracted a lot of members to the community, and that is remote independent contractor SDR roles. And this is a bit different compared to your traditional corporate tech sales environment in person, where early stage tech companies, we're talking about self funded or bootstrap startups, are looking for talent, right? They're looking for talent for SDRs, which is the appointment setter role, to set
Hmm.
these sales qualified appointments for their products, right? And unfortunately, these companies, since they're self funded, they don't have much capital, tools, or resources to go to the marketplace, something like a LinkedIn, a job board, and say, hey, we're going to pay you, whatever, $60,000 and 60 in commission. So they go to websites like Well Found Jobs, Remote.co, Upwork, independent contractor websites where they're finding this talent um, at a discounted rate, an hourly rate. And what I've come to realize is, especially since 2020, there's become a big gap in the marketplace in arbitrage in itself, where you can apply job stacking, the overemployment model, to these SDR contracts, work 100% remote from anywhere in the world, and make pretty good money doing it.
Okay. And how does that work? Because appointment setter type roles are a grind, right? You're on the phone for multiple hours a day, you're cold calling lists. Most people think it's impossible to stack multiple sales roles. So, could you explain how you've kind of found that to work?
Yeah, so through self experience in between roles in my past was SDR contract stacking, and of course, like teach people how to do that now. So the opportunity lies that given these are small companies, early stage startups, they lack the infrastructure in terms of sales tools, management in general. You're going to be working with a first time founder, right? Most likely he has a technical background of being a software engineer. Give you an example. Worked for Google maybe for 10, 15 years, right? Was a software engineer, decided he wanted to quit the 9 to 5, bet on himself, start a company. Well, number one, right, we established they don't have the capital to do so. So that founder really is looking for that SDR to bring expertise to the table, right? So you have this open canvas where in 2024 you can automate a lot of workflows of that appointment setter when it comes to a power dialer, email automation software, and the big hitter here is going to be your opportunity to outsource a lot of the administrative tasks, manual tasks in the SDR role to virtual assistants overseas and taking advantage of lower wages and the currency arbitrage there too.
Okay. And are you currently doing this contract stacking, or did you move up market to like a AE type of more prestigious role?
Yeah. So to give you a quick background here, right? Been in the software sales space for about 6 years, going on 7 now. I originally got started through the SDR contract world. Did that for about 18 to 24 months. Then took the corporate route from there in account executive roles now for 4 to 5. But quickly realized while I was in between roles going up market from a mid market account executive to enterprise, um, I was looking for an opportunity, needed the perfect fit, and that timeline to find a role was about 4 to 6 months. So was looking to pick up some additional work on top of the Wi-Fi money that I was running, and realized that that SDR role, which originally got me into the industry, that you can apply the overemployment model that a lot of people in the tech industry, right, software engineers are working on multiple roles in 2020. I applied that method to the SDR contract based work and was able
Uh-huh.
to work on multiple opportunities.
And then the juicy question is, once you found the perfect upmarket AE opportunity, did you keep stacking the SDR contracts on the side?
I did not. In my opinion, it's too much to handle, at least at this point in my career.
But if it's all automated, why is it too much to handle?
Yeah. So take into consideration, right? I run two online businesses plus the full time corporate role. However, you should be able to, in terms of labor hours, right? Let's give another example. You work 40 hours a week on this SDR contract using automation, right, through different tools and a full time VA to help support you in those tasks. You should be able to reduce the amount of hours worked to about 15 to 20 is what we see myself and my students doing. Now, in terms of being able to layer that in on top of, a complex and heavily, weighted quota as an enterprise account executive, I wouldn't recommend it to people.
Got it. And so, what are your two businesses? I guess the Fidel thing is in the community. That's a business. What's the other one?
Yeah, so the other one is I work with brand influencers, a lot of TikTok shop, ecom business.
Okay, it's like an agency. What do you do for them?
Yeah, it's an agency. Basically, we represent TikTok creators and help them land brand deals for a percentage.
Ah, cool. How'd you get into that?
Yeah, just kind of seeing the craze of the online, community, how these creators can basically, earn great money on these different social media websites was introduced through an organic, personal connection that I had of a pretty large influencer that had something like 300,000 followers. And I was having a conversation with them and they weren't making as much money as we thought they could pull with their followers. So, represented them on a contracting basis and kind of kept that relationship and expanded from there.
Okay, so primarily TikTok or Instagram as well.
Instagram as well. Originally started with Instagram and slowly have migrated over to TikTok.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Maybe so. You think you can get me some brand deals?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay. 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 Tangent aside, I thought you were going to say like a construction company or roofing company or something, because you talk about that on Twitter a lot.
Yeah, I just have identified that, at least inside of the US market, like real estate is growing at a rapid pace. And we're kind of in this interesting market right now where there's more demand than supply. So, there's a gap for new home builders and a big arbitrage there for someone to start a business. But that's more of a pipe dream at this point.
Yeah, yeah. I know we'll get back to the stacking and the tech sales and hating on high ticket sales, but indulge me for a second because I also think about this a lot. You probably know I'm a dual citizen. I'm from Canada originally, where like who knows, God knows what percent of GDP is construction in Canada, and everybody makes 150K as a plumber or electrician in Canada, and obviously there's a huge shortage of houses in Canada and the U.S. And I'm like, and so I've always been like, yeah, I love my freedom of working online, but I'm like, I probably would have been a millionaire faster if I just did something in construction.
Yeah, there's always trade offs and assessments that we have to make in life. But hey, hopefully the lifestyle outweighs it.
I know I'm like, can I just start like a home building company on the side? I'm probably not going to do it, right?
Yeah,
Uh, so
yeah.
you're kind of where I'm at, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of people, if they're paying attention, have realized like a lot of these, what they quote unquote call boring businesses or just blue collar businesses, are a huge opportunity in, North America right now.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a whole other combo. But yeah, I'm seeing that popping up a lot. Okay, and then I'm curious. So within the B2B SaaS that you do you do any specific sector or type of industry? Like, do you do healthcare or do you do something else? Or do you think that I guess your skill set could kind of work across any industry, or have you sort of niched down in that sense?
Yeah, so it really depends on, excuse me, the service and product offering and the company that you represent. Typically, they assign you to those individual segments. Um, but currently, right now, yes, I'm specialized. I work with suppliers, distributors, manufacturers.
Manufacturers. Okay,
Yep.
cool, cool. Okay, do we want to talk about corporate AE stuff, or do we want to talk about contract stacking?
I think the people, in terms of actionable steps they can make and apply to their lives right now, it's going to be contract stacking.
Okay, cool. Well, one thing you said about that surprised me is that the majority of the clients or the people contracting are early stage startups. So it sounds like other is that right? Like those are the people who you'll be targeting as potential employers.
Yeah, so those employers are early stage companies, right? So with technology, we have private equity, we've got venture capital. If your mind will go to Silicon Valley in San Francisco traditionally, right? The way it typically
Got
works
it.
is, for example, you have this idea for an app back in 2012. You go to investors, just like a Shark Tank, for example. You're like, hey, give me $2 million, right? And they expect to see the return in a time period.
Uh huh.
Well, if you as a business owner make the decision, hey, I don't want to give up a percentage of my company for this investment up front, that's what we would call bootstrap startups, right? So self
Uh huh.
funded companies. And typically, these self-funded companies with these first-time founders, they're put in a situation where they would love to scale their business, but they simply do not have the revenue or the clients to do so. Right. So we're
Okay,
talking
so you
about
find it's not venture backed companies; it's more self funded businesses.
100%.
Okay, so self-funded businesses, and they're typically sort of tech or high-tech businesses. People aren't contract stacking for, electricity sales or roofing sales or something.
They could, right, which is 100% a personal decision. What we primarily focus on are tech startup SDR contracts for people, given that that's my background. However, we do have folks that find roles in other industries in a appointment setting SDR role.
Okay, and how much can someone expect to make in this SDR role?
Per contract, it's a heavily discounted rate, right? Putting ourselves in the shoes of the business owner again, think about it. This money's coming directly from their bank account or small business bank account that they have. So let's kind of do a benchmark to give people a gauge, right? In a traditional corporate tech sales role in the U.S., for example, you're looking at an average wage, everything included, of about $120,000. Now, they can't make that investment, so they go to the contractor market and they can hire SDR contractors as low as $15 an hour and as high as $50 an hour. Typical
Okay.
average, you're going to be looking at anywhere between, I would say, 20 to 30.
20 to 30 bucks an hour.
20 to
Okay.
30 bucks an hour. Yep.
And what kind of what's the approach here? Like, so you, I assume people need to sort of tailor their resume to look like they have sales experience, and then they apply on these job sites.
Yeah, 100%. You hit the nail on the head. You optimize your resume, match that with the profile, and apply to these companies, right? Land the interviews, land the offer, um, get you kind of get your understanding of that business and the expectations, implement the automations where you can, outsource the work where you can, and take on your second, third, and fourth contract and above.
Okay, cool. I'm liking it. Is there anything different about the hiring process for these SDR contractor roles compared to, say, like a normal LinkedIn, what's it called, W-2
Right,
role? Like, is it kind of the same thing where maybe you speak to the whatever the recruiter first, and then you have the first round, and then the second round, and then you get the offer, and then you sign the offer? Or
right.
is there anything sort of different about this particular niche?
Yeah, I describe it as the Wild Wild West, right? Which is why we branded the group Desperado. But very fast to hire and also very fast to fire.
Hmm.
Again, small businesses and the hiring period. Once you receive an invitation to interview, for example, it's maybe a 1 hour conversation, right? And they expect you to begin on Monday. Very flexible opportunities that you can rip and replace and find your perfect fit that matches your lifestyle. Um, but yeah, typically like a corporate role, you're going to be looking at a process of anywhere from like 2 to as great as 6 months, depending on how much experience you have.
2 to 6 months is what? How long it takes to get the
Typical
role?
corporate tech sale, B2B tech sales W2. Yep.
Is how long it takes to get a job?
In this current market, yes.
Wow, that's crazy. I heard it was really competitive, like really competitive to get the upmarket, like Fortune 500 sales jobs.
Thousands of applicants, probably hundreds of interviews they go on, and yeah, you definitely need to come correct. So there's that opportunity, right, where it's like, hey, maybe you're in between a role, you can't afford 6 months to be out of work, you don't want to go work, an hourly retail wage. It's like get you into a contract opportunity you can get as quick as 2 weeks, right? We have people in the group that have landed stuff within 2 weeks, and supplement that income where you can.
Got it. And so, if these are sort of brand new companies and the owner has a lot of sort of decision making power, why even approach them and say, "Hey, I'll be your lackey for 20 bucks an hour"? Why don't
Right.
you approach them with more of like a agency or a business owner perspective and be like, "Hey, I'll be your outsourced sales team. I'm going to hire a team. I'm going to hire virtual assistants. We're going to take this thing to the moon," and sort of take like and sort of approach it in a way that might be more conducive to scaling beyond just the job stacking 2 to 3 job max.
100%. And that is the path a lot of people come to their realization. I would say is a contract stacking 2.0, which is more of the, for lack of better words, SDR agency route that you can model your operation or business off of, larger organizations. You mentioned Austin at the front of this call. I believe there's a company called Memory Blue, where that's exactly what they do. They outsource the SDR role and are paid on performance.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna take a look at that. Okay, interesting. And what kind of softwares can people expect to use in this role? Like, I know in high ticket sales they use Go High Level or HubSpot. What are we using on this side of the industry?
Yeah, I mean, depends on the infrastructure of the contract, right? Again, Wild Wild West. Maybe some people have a CRM, they have a phone dialer, they've got email software, and some companies they just hand you a lead list that they've purchased on I don't know Telegram or something, and they tell you to just smile and dial. So, number one, we want to optimize for those small businesses that do not have infrastructure in place so we can implement our system. But very lean operation, right? We don't want a big overhead costs, especially since it's thin profit margins per contract, right? If you've only got one contract, you're making $20 an hour. It's not much coin at the end of the day. So a heavy investment into a fancy software is not ideal. So happy to kind of walk through each recommendation, but bare bones, you're probably looking at like a $150 a month leadless software, maybe a $20 a month CRM. You can use your own cell phone in the beginning, but also if you want to automate it, maybe another $100 subscription or so.
Okay. So if I hire you, Fidel, and I say, come in, $20 an hour, I got some pretty good leads. They opted into the Facebook ads or something. Um, I'll give you an email address and just go to town. What are you going to implement? Like what is the software stack that you would, if you had free reign, you would implement?
So to make the distinction, if it was just one contract I was managing, I would be able to do that organically. I could just call those leads and hit the KPIs needed. However, if I'm now managing multiple, right, there's more performance burden from maybe 15 appointments for that one contract to 30, maybe 50, right? But let's say I'm contract stacking at this point. I would implement a CRM. Personally, I like Pipedrive. That's a cheap subscription. I think it's like $9 per month to organize my accounts.
Okay.
I would get an email software like an Instantly to send out. I believe it's like up to 400 to 500 emails per day. I would get Ring.io as a dialer to leave automated voicemail drops to those accounts and also make the dials myself. And LinkedIn Sales Navigator for my VAs to send LinkedIn messages. That would be a very lean operation, a small investment to make.
Okay. Cool. I'm not familiar with any of this stuff, but I will take a look. Ring.io kind of rings a bell. But instantly.ai, is that the one?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So how does email automation stuff work? Because I'm not very smart on this stuff. Like, could you explain kind of I'm sure there, sending emails manually sucks, but what would an email automation software look like?
Yeah, so something like an Instantly, and I'll preface this by saying I am not the cold email guy. At the end of the day, I'm a full cycle account executive, um, more powerful on the phones. However, a software like an Instantly basically takes the burden away of, hey, you purchase a Gmail account, you say, I'm going to start emailing people to set appointments.
This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Crema Social. Crema Social is like TikTok for international dating. It's an app you can download right now on your phone, and 3 out of 4 people on Crema are single women. The app was founded in Colombia, so unsurprisingly, there are a lot of Latinas on the app, by the way. So, how does it work? Crema Social is a social meal experience where you invite a hot girl for a lunch date via video call and food delivery. New concept, so you'll have to try it out for yourself, but this is probably the best way to meet Latinas before you visit the country. So if you're in Latin America or planning to visit Latin America, download Crema Social now and start getting dates right away. There will be a link in the description to download, or just search Crema Social on your favorite app store. Have fun, guys. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by BitRefill. BitRefill is the best way to spend your crypto in Latin America. Purchase gift cards or mobile refills from more than 3,500 brands in 186 countries instantly, safely, and privately. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Job Stacking. If you are a remote or hybrid worker looking to maximize your earning potential, then Rolf Haltze, the author of Job Stacking, guarantees you'll be able to double your income. This is the exact system Rolf has used to take his own income and those of many others beyond 20K a month. So, what is job stacking? It's this idea of working multiple remote jobs. You might have heard Rolf, he's worked 5, 7, even 9 remote jobs at the same time before. And by the way, job stacking works equally well for non technical roles. So, no, it's not just for the nerds. So, if you're ready to job stack, then book a discovery call with job stacking and see how they can double your income in just 9 weeks. In the show notes in the description, there will be a link where you can book a call directly on the Calendly of job stacking and be talking with them as early as tomorrow about how to double your income as quickly as possible.
Now, Gmail and these other providers, right? Outlook, Microsoft, there's a warm up period, especially with like GPDR or GDPR, if that's the correct law that they passed. Essentially, they've been
Got it.
attempting to limit cold email and spam for
Uh huh.
individuals and businesses. So, salespeople in this example had now essentially this warm up period where they need to quote unquote warm up these domains for extensive amount of times to actually get their email read or delivered in someone's email inbox. So instantly takes that burden away. They warm up the domains for you. So in a shorter amount of time period, maybe the first day or the first week, you can begin reaching out to your prospects.
Okay. Looks like Pipedrive changed its name to Biggin.
Is that right?
Yeah, by Zoho. I think it maybe got bought by Zoho or something.
Yeah, I saw an email that maybe they were recently acquired. I was, man, that's
Or
crazy.
no, wait. I think I'm tripping. I think I clicked an ad. Okay, never mind. False alert. Pipedrive.com. Okay. And just curious, what do other people use Go High Level for this, or is that just like a whole different industry? Because that's what people use in high ticket sales.
Yeah, very big in the lead gen and agency space as well too. I've never had experience with it, so I can't recommend it.
Okay, cool. So we get a 40-hour week contract with some automations and outsourcing to a VA. We get that down to 15 to 20 hours a week. So it sounds like we can stack two of those. Now we're making $40 an hour roughly.
To be conservative, yeah.
Okay. And then what do we do from there? Cuz that's probably going to be like a lot for someone to manage, right? Cuz at that point they're managing multiple VAs and all this type of stuff.
Yeah. So really the secret sauce, I would say, to scaling beyond two contracts comes into play with time, right? And time zones. So let's just take US folks, for example. There's multiple time zones, right? We got Central Time, Pacific Time, East Coast Time, etc. So first, what you want to do once you have your first contract and you begin contract stacking is staggering your time zones, right? Ideal
Mhm.
state and what we recommend to people. The first goal, as we back up here, is to get to your first 100 billable hours, not hours worked, billable hours, right? That's going to put you at a full time job, depending on how efficient you are, of about 40 to 50 hours per week, right? 8 to 10 hours per day. So, with that being said, ideally you would like to stagger the time zones of the contracts that you represent. So, you've got a 9 a.m. East Coast time, right? If you're in, let's just say Central Time, for example, that's 8 a.m. You can work that East Coast contract for 2 to 3 hours, complete the work that you need to do, the appointment set that you need to do. Using sales training tools, automation VAs, you should be able to set your, you know, low expectation of an appointment every other day or an appointment per day to hit the goals that you need. Long story short, work that contract for about 2 to 3 hours, right? That's going to put you at 11 a.m. East Coast time. Now we're going to turn back the clock and begin to work on our Pacific Coast contract. Same exact model, work from 9 to 11, right? Then you can pick up part time contracts. These are full time and part time contracts that you can work. Layer in beyond two a part time 15 to 20-hour contract in Central Time, which should make up your 8 to 9 hours per day. and bill your 100 hours per week. So we got, to recap, full time contract East Coast, full time contract Pacific time, part time contract Central. So very small overlap. You're not managing setting appointments at the same time for all these different things. Segment it to 2 to 3 hour blocks for each contract to set the appointments that you need. And of course, like any administration, throughout that working period or after hours, we work with a lot of people from Nigeria and the Philippines. They have a different time zone. You can have your meetings outside of typical business hours.
Okay, got it. So you find that you're not just like constantly jumping back and forth from one computer to the other. You kind of do it in like 2 to 3 hour segments and then just shift your attention to the other contract.
100%. Like exactly as you mentioned, right? These are different opportunities and businesses that you can work for. You may have a transportation business you're setting appointments for, and then a technology company that you're setting appointments for. Different talk track, different messaging, different client. Where once you set up your standard operating procedures, your call script, all those different things, I find as far as management and focus, you gotta block it into those 2 to 3 hours.
Okay, cool. And then why do any of the work at all? Couldn't you just like hire someone to do it all for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. It can be very hit or miss, right? Let's say that we 100% committed to this opportunity. Essentially, this is our income to pay our bills, right? Me personally, I'm a control freak. That's the way I run my businesses and my sales cycles with my clients. So, outsourcing what we would call the dialing position within your contract stacking operation or agency is the last piece that I would recommend, right? Because the performance is what you're paid on. If you don't set the appointments, they're going to get rid of you. Again, hire fast, fire fast, right?
Hmm.
So let's say for 4 to 6 weeks, you're not hitting your KPIs and you hired someone to appointment set. Maybe they're not fully trained. Maybe they're not even working, right? Maybe they're job stacking. I'm not sure if I can basically outsource that pretty pivotal piece um, of performance. So we recommend once you get to 100 hours, right? First goal is 100 billable hours between the two full time, one part time, and you want to continue scaling. Like we have some people inside of the group, they're managing 5 right now, and they're making up to 20K a month doing it. You apply that same exact model if you want to think of a triangle where you have each point of the triangle is a contract. We have 3 contracts. You're going to have one dialer, which should be yourself in the beginning, setting the appointments. Your one full time VA working on the back end, and you would copy paste that to another contract, another triangle of 3 contracts, where most likely you're going to need to hire a salesperson, a dialer, to perform the function of that role, right? Calling, setting the appointments, running the email campaigns. Um, but I don't recommend making that investment because it's low margin in the beginning, right? Even at 2 or 3 contracts, um, you can make great money, right? At 100 hours, you can make upwards of, I would say, somewhere between like 8 to 12K a month. But you're going to need to make an investment of, I would say, at least 3K or so to find a quality person to sell for you.
Okay, makes sense. And so when you say dialer, I assume you're cold calling?
Cold calling, yes.
So if you're cold calling, like it's not like is the are the VAs setting appointments for you as well? So it's a mix of cold calling and setter calls, or what is the admin work that the VAs and the email sender people are actually doing for you?
Yeah. Again, kind of goes to my recommendation and experience. I don't necessarily trust, especially if I'm hiring someone new, fresh for the first time. My performance is going to be outsourced to that person up front because it's my money at the end of the day, right? So typically more passive administrative roles. So maybe lead list building, right? Providing accounts for you to call on that day. Managing the email inbox, responding and booking those appointments, copy pasting messages to send out on LinkedIn messages, and
Hmm.
leaving the automated voicemail drops. So everything that is not client facing in a direct selling capacity. So everything but the phone.
Okay. And sorry, what's an automated voicemail drop? I'm intrigued.
Yeah, it's a really cool feature, man. I'm almost like a an ambassador. I want to get paid a commission of how many people I sold on it. But yeah, Ring.io has a very cool feature. If you've ever been cold call by an auto extended warranty or maybe even like a scam offer for healthcare, essentially it allows you on the very first connect. When we think of a cold call, right? You call someone, there's typically a slight delay and then it begins ringing, right? Essentially, once that call connects by the first ring, you can click a button on the software that says voicemail drop. It completes the call and bypasses you straight to their voicemail for you to leave a pre recorded voicemail. So you can go through, hire a VA to bang out, 100 to 200 voicemail drops, maybe on the clients you just called that didn't answer or people that you left an email for the day.
Okay, got it. And what about texting? What part does SMS play in this?
Yeah, it can be highly technical. In my personal opinion, I'm not a fan of it, just due to I want to keep everything above board, especially if I'm representing a group. For like compliance, texting is technically not within compliance, and you can get in trouble for it. So I just avoid it
Hmm,
altogether.
interesting. Okay. So you just stick to email, calls, voicemails, you don't text at all.
Keep it very organic. Keep it very organic and very strict to the fundamentals.
Okay. And then LinkedIn as well.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Cool. I wonder if that's enough about contract stacking and then we'll move on to some other stuff, or is there anything maybe I forgot to ask about?
No, I think we hit all the highlights. At the end of the day, the job market is very new. At least, not many people are talking about it. So, not much competition, right, compared to corporate opportunities. If you scroll LinkedIn, especially for a remote role, man, it's crazy. All of the remote roles are getting applied to first with hundreds, if not tens of thousands of applicants. Um,
Hmm.
but there's this one small little market on these select few websites where there's 10 applications, and you can get into these opportunities with no degree or much sales experience and work remote. But yeah, let's. What else should we cover?
Okay. And again, one more time, what were the websites you recommended?
Yeah, so the number one website I would recommend, and this is an exclusive, is going to be Upwork.
Really?
Highest
Okay.
quality opportunities in terms of companies, sustainability, and pay.
Hmm.
Uh, Website number two is going to be Indeed, and
Really?
there is
I thought Indeed sucks.
yeah, Indeed has again very hit or miss. It depends on the opportunity, right, and what particular segment you're looking for. However, the quantity of contract appointment setter roles is going to be on both of those platforms.
Okay, so those are your top two. And if you had to add a third?
If I had to add a third, it would be LinkedIn.
Oh, okay. Well, LinkedIn, Indeed, and Upwork pretty sounds pretty standard. You mentioned other ones earlier, though.
Yeah, so there's well-found jobs, there's remote.co, there's smaller players, less opportunity available. However, if you're looking for work, you should work all of them.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, do you have a hard stop in 9 minutes, or can we go a bit over?
Yeah, let's go over, man.
Okay, cool. Um, okay, should we talk about high ticket sales next, or should we talk about the path from SDR to maybe a more prestigious, mid market or whatever it's called, AE role?
Most likely high ticket sales, since it is a viable option for remote workers.
Right. Okay. So we'll stick with the remote opportunities theme. Okay. So I know you have a lot to say about this. So I'll let you just cook here. High ticket sales versus SDR contract stacking.
SDR contract stacking. The reason being is that The high ticket sales job market, although very similar in terms of low barrier to entry, right, degree or resume, sales experience required, the earning potential in comparison is number one, less sustainable. So, although these are both small businesses and startups, the startups on some of these websites, like a Upwork, for example, are willing to make the investment for these salespeople by paying them a guaranteed hourly rate that they pay out on a weekly basis, right? So,
Hmm.
um, versus most likely some of these smaller high ticket operations are 100% commission, purely
Yep.
performance based. Now,
Yep.
the second thing with that is also going to be that typically the business model of high ticket, which is closely associated with info products, I think that's the biggest leader in the high ticket space, is going to be highly dependent on lead flow, right? So the function of an SDR contractor is outbound prospecting, right? Finding leads through cold calling, cold email, LinkedIn, versus with high ticket, a lot of the business model is based off of inbound lead flow, the exact opposite. And
Yep.
the quality of inbound lead flow is out of your control as the high ticket salesman. So you are, number one, dependent on ad spend, quality of offer, and the audience you're selling to, right? You can't control whether someone books that call and they are a qualified lead. Essentially, you just have to attempt to earn your commission and sell everyone, right? Versus with an SDR contractor role, I'm being paid to target our clients that are motivated to buy our solution. So the control capacity and the guaranteed income is why my chips are going to land on contract stacking. However, with that being said, high ticket sales can still provide a great sales experience. People that are getting introduced to sales in general or looking to build a long term career, a lot of different the capabilities, behaviors, exposure that you're going to get is going to be very similar. However, at the end of the day, income potential is going to be guaranteed and more consistent with these hourly based contracts.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely more consistent. Have you ever done high ticket sales before yourself?
For my own offers through Fidel, if that counts.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. So, how did you kind of learn about it? Because it sounds like you have a decent gist of how it works.
Yeah, so these are the people that naturally gravitated to the information that I was talking about on Twitter. They naturally gravitated to our subset of the community that's for contract stacking. And hopping on calls with these people, holding live group calls, they would just share their experiences, right? Which, take in mind, my perspective may be a bit skewed given all of the experiences I've heard have been negative experiences, right? Otherwise, they would be still on that high ticket offer. But there seemed to be a consistent theme of people that churn from high ticket sales, where you know 1 month they earned $15,000 and the next month they earned 3,000, right? And they were on this constant seesaw of job hopping to different offers, trying to run up that offer while the ad spend is great and the offer owner is printing money and a short term career at that organization and having to pack their bags and find a new one. So um, that's essentially, I guess, the value proposition that the market really has identified.
Yeah, it's definitely very offer dependent, for sure. And so, would you argue it's just fundamentally a very different skill set? Because high ticket sales is there. I think there's definitely overlap, but it is maybe a different skill set versus maybe outbound is a different skill set.
100%, especially if you're making the comparison from a high ticket closer, right? That's a very transactional sales environment where as an SDR, right, a sales development representative, that term, by the way, originally comes from the software industry specifically. But the
Hmm.
SDR role, it's more expensive products, and you need more of a targeted approach because not everybody's in the market to buy a CRM, right? You can't just call up 100 people and sell them a CRM versus there is a much larger market maybe for losing weight, right? So
Right.
everybody could be a quality lead for you. So fundamentally, a different approach.
Hmm. And have you seen people maybe do both, where maybe they do contract stat, maybe they do a SDR contract?
Yeah,
I
my
think that
apologies
was
for
your
the
computer or something.
yeah.
No worries, no worries. We'll keep it rolling. So, um, maybe people do like one SDR contract and then they also do one high ticket offer. Like, have you seen people do anything like that?
Yes, often. And that is what we recommend for people. I like to poke fun at it and say that our community's high ticket rehab for people. But when people, have a bad experience with an offer, they kind of hang up the cleats. And at the end of the day, like some of these opportunities, again, like they're paying their bills, keeping them afloat. I recommend, hey, don't go cold turkey on your high ticket opportunity and layer in the contract and slowly scale and begin contract stacking to where you can successfully transition without being out of work or income. So a lot of people that decided to commit from high ticket sales to go to contract stacking, they're in a transitional period where they're taking inbound calls, closing on offers, and working on contracts as well too.
Yeah, yeah, that definitely makes sense. I need to I'm trying to pull up some of your high ticket sales tweets. So I'm just searching people. Anyone can do this. Like if you go to Fidel Cashflow's Twitter and then search HTS in like the from section, you can kind of see how he compares things, and it's pretty funny. You do a good job of shitting on high ticket sales sometimes. Um, Obviously a little biased, but no, it's good. I like it.
Yeah.
If I had to push back on one thing, obviously with SDR, your income's capped. You do two SDRs, maybe you're making like 40, 50, maybe $60 an hour on the high end. It's still not that high. It's like to do this SDR contract stacking, for it to make any sense, you basically have to go beyond two roles, at least based on the numbers that you're telling me.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, income varies, right? And that's based off of your ability to land those higher quality contracts, right? There very much are opportunities where people are working on $40 an hour contracts and $50 an hour contracts, right? So that can skew your income as well too. But presenting the 100% new sales professional, 19-year-old that's in high ticket sales, I'm going to say most likely your results are going to look like something in the middle range of maybe $20 to $25 an hour, right? So quick maths. At 40 hours, right, at $20 an hour, that's 800 a week
Uh
times,
huh.
let's say 50 weeks a year, it's about 40K, right?
Uh huh.
Now, here's the
That's what I'm
advantage.
saying. Two of them is only 80K. That's like not even like, you'd make better money just getting any random job these days in the US.
Two is 40K. Two is 40K.
40K times two is 80K, right?
No, no, no. They're going to be 20K a piece
Per year. Per
per
year?
year. Per year.
That's not.
That
Wait. $20 an hour times 40 hours a week is 800 bucks a week times 4, so you're making like 3200 a month, right? So you're expecting around 3200, maybe if we're generous like 4K a month
Yep.
for one SDR contract. And then you double that, you're still only at 80K, and it's going to be so much more of a headache than an average 80K job.
More of a headache. That's subjective, right? Average 9 to 5er is number one, making less money than that. But also, I mean, going into office, you got to spend money on miles. There's other expenses that you have to associate with the typical 9 to 5er that works in office. Also, if you're a 1099, there's heavy tax advantages, right? This is something you can LLC, something you can S corp. take advantage of home office deductions, phone bill, internet, laptop, phone.
Hmm.
Also, if you take home, let's say that 80K, you can have the potential to actually keep 80K, which is more equivalent to earning at a 30% tax rate in the US, like 100K, 100, 110K. But with that being said, yes, that's why everything we talk about is about SDR contract stacking. You're not getting into SDR contract based work to, work the average wage of someone that works at McDonald's. Number one goal is 100 billable hours. At 100 billable hours, it's a full time job. And the full time job is going to increase your income depending on the hourly rate of, six figures and beyond.
Hmm. And then what's like the next level? I guess that that goes into going into more corporate sales, or I guess it could go a couple of different directions. But
Yeah,
I guess you're learning good skill sets. But even stacking three of these contracts, um, it's not like insane, right? Like you're probably still going to be less than like 120K a year.
correct.
So we gotta. So what's kind of the next level?
Yeah, so let's put this into perspective, right? The average SDR in the corporate world right now, their OTE, which is on target earnings, that's base salary guarantee plus
Hmm.
commissions, is somewhere in the range of, I would say, probably 85,000, maybe 90,000, right? $50,000 base, 30K in commissions. Average attainment in 2024 is closer to 60%, which means that they're not making 30 grand in commissions. They're making 15, right? So, in comparison to going the corporate traditional get a tech sales job, I want to go to a corporate career, you're going to make less money than the contract stacker that just has two contracts that's working part time, 100% remote, overseas, doing what he wants, right? Now, and of course, beyond, you're going to far exceed the corporate route. So, what a lot of people do long term is take the contract stacking SDR experience, scratch off that box of an SDR role, and leverage it for a corporate account executive role, which is significantly going to increase your income. Or they use it as a lifestyle business, right? Working remote, building their own online business, living overseas, doing what they want for a short term cash grab.
One thing I like that you talk about on Twitter is kind of reaching that upper echelon of society with the country clubs and things like that. And I don't see that mentioned very much. Could you kind of speak to your vision about how I guess corporate tech sales and really just your general philosophy about how people can you know get to those upper echelons?
Yeah, just improving their life, or I guess experiences. Yeah, so I mean, like, if it's your goal, number one, I'm really big on goals, like, and kind of looking at yourself in the mirror and being like, hey, honest with yourself, like, what are we chasing here from a professional perspective, from a personal perspective, right? If long term you decide to go into self development, see what you can do in terms of income potential, and you're really money hungry, which, in my personal opinion, most people aren't. They're just looking to make money to pay their bills. But with that being said, if you're legacy planning and looking to maximize, your time in your career and optimize for earning potential, um, legacy planning is really about networking and making, a lasting impact with your last name, right? At the end of the day, um, classism really in all countries can be represented. Some much more pronounced than others. However, being U.S. based, it's still very prevalent, right? And my perspective is that the American dream, in my opinion, is dead at this point. The old 1950s model of work your stable 9 to 5, maybe get promoted every 10 years, afford the home, have the 3 kids and wife that stays at home. That potential is very limited for a lot of people in their careers at this point, right? So it's like, how do we reignite that new American dream? And I think it's everything that you talk about inside of your community and on Twitter as well too. It's somewhere lies in between maximizing your income potential with a career or business or whatever you're working on, and doing that, internationally, right, where you can get variable experiences and build your network globally, right, and having those resources and people at your disposal as you need, right, which is really networking. So, um, you're that's an asset in yourself, just like sales skills is, right? How can we, if your goal is long-term legacy planning, establish that local presence that the old generation has created through the country clubs or through these different societies and paid memberships? So I think, we're talking about opportunity with HVAC in America. Like, I think that there's a huge opportunity. A lot of people. How old are you again?
Early 30s.
Yeah, I'm 26, right? So it's like, um, the country club, boomer or Gen X that kind of network their way up through these old, I don't know what's the right word, but like societies. I think that
Uh-huh.
that's changing, right? And a lot of people can take advantage of new opportunities that are available to them, and most of it is found online. Most of it is found within Telegram, within Twitter. So I think that, if you are in business and you're trying to maximize on your long term legacy planning, establishing your network inside of these different communities is going to be vital, to build your own American dream, for example.
Hmm. Fidel, I'll tell you something. I don't know if you knew this, but the country clubs, the entry price is usually it varies based on your age bracket. And so if you enter a country club before age 30, it's like way reduced price compared to if you try to enter at age 45. Like, for example, if you try to enter, like, and so much so that it's crazy. Like, if you go to, I don't know what area of the US you are, but I don't know, let's just say,
Texas,
what Texas. So let's just say the Fort Worth Country Club, right? If you try to join when you're 45, it might be a $30,000 entry fee.
right?
But if you try to join in that 26 to 30 age bracket, it might only be $8,000 to join.
Is that right? Yeah.
And then your annual fee is also way less too because the annual fee is also age dependent.
What do you think the reasoning is behind that?
Well, because people are just more established in their careers when they get older and they have more money.
Yeah, yeah. It's an interesting microcosm of life. It's kind of like the club.
I think I think actually the whole country club thing. I you kind of took it in an angle where you're like, yeah, grow your network on Twitter, join communities, which is a good. We'll plug the Fidel community at the end here. But on the country club thing, I think these things are very undervalued because what you're seeing is there's not a lot of young people joining country clubs these days because they don't see the value in it. And so if you talk to any like country club general manager in the United States, they'll say like we're actually having a hard time balancing the budget, and a lot of them are actually running deficits.
Mm,
And partly is because they're having a hard time acquiring new customers.
mm,
They're having a hard time getting the next generation in.
yeah,
And so they want to get people in their late 20s, early 30s in, um, because they're not getting because most people aren't joining until their 40s, and I think even in general, people these days in their 40s, unless they were part of it growing up, a lot of people just aren't joining. So I
right,
think these country clubs are actually less expensive than you think they are. They have the prestige and the patina of 100 years of history and all that. But if you actually just approach the country club administration manager and say like, "Hey, how much does it cost?" and they say, "Yep, you're going to need two references, and then this is the price." It's actually really not as bad as you think it is.
right, right. Yeah, and at the end of the day, right, all clubs and even country clubs are not created equal, and the prestige and the patina is
True.
going to be paid for, right? There's a premium set on that. But it depends on what your goals are, right? And what your sphere of influence looks like. right? Maybe the new country club in your local area that was just established. That's a great opportunity for you to get into a lower entry fee, but also realize the other individuals who are joining
Mhm.
there. It's kind of like an online networking group. It's like, okay,
So, dude, I looked into this like pretty extensively.
yeah,
I'm a member of a couple country clubs,
uh-huh.
honestly, and the oldest, most prestigious one is like not that much more expensive than the new ones. Sometimes the new ones are even more expensive.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's just a new mindset with people that they're interested in different things, for different reasons. And again, another gap in the marketplace for somebody that is hungry, they want to move up in the world. They can connect with these people that are possibly retired, semi-retired. That there's a wealth of knowledge and quote unquote game that you can
Yeah,
find on Twitter, that you can take advantage of.
yeah. It's also a good co-working space.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, 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 dude. I'll just go work at the country club. They got good Wi-Fi. It's peaceful. And get a sandwich.
There you go.
Have a sauna. Hit the gym.
Yeah, it's a whole lifestyle, man. I heard inside some of those they get down pretty hard partying.
I haven't seen that too much, but they got everything else covered.
Yeah,
But no, actually, yeah, like me. I mean, I guess the old guys, it's like kind of their place to like get the double whiskey on the rocks and shoot the shit. So yeah, maybe that's true in a way. I mean, it's no Latin America, but it's something.
yeah, cool.
No, so there's a good tip for you. Cool. Tell us about the community. I saw that you might be moving from sub launch to school or something like that.
Yeah, moving over to WAP
To
in a
WOP.
transitionary period, so nothing you can access or join at this point. Again, Vance, appreciate the opportunity having me on the podcast and just sharing a little bit about an opportunity we found for people that are looking to work remote or overseas. They can get into opportunities like SDR contract stacking. I'm on Twitter. That's the main platform. Just Fidel, Fidel, Cash, like Cache, and then Flow. You could find me there.
Fidel Cashflow. There'll be a link in the description for the Twitter, and then hopefully my affiliate code for the sub launch is still good. I might need one for the WAP, but whatever works will be in the description.
Yep. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely, man. This has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Again, our guest today, Fidel Cashflow. Highly recommend you join his community if you want the A to Z guide on SDR contract stacking. And if you're listening to this podcast, please subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to this. We drop 2 episodes a week with amazing guests like Fidel, and you won't want to miss an episode. Ciao for now.